Oh, hi. Didn't see you there. All right. It's your boy Tom True. And my quaff. I got a quaff. I'm just doing a frizz to my quaff. Quaffing it out. Boom, bam, beans, and ham. Boom, bam, beans, and ham. All right. So listen. I was looking at some stuff. That was my Kevin Hart. I was looking at some information that's been posted on Facebook, and it was about disabled veterans and SSI, Ssdi, and veterans benefits, and how and can you receive both? And I think there's some mix up between can you receive both? And the answer is yes, you can receive both. You can still get your disability 10% on up to 100, actually over that, and still be on SSI, or excuse me, SSDI. SSI is pretty much the beginning for a year, and if they think that your problem is going to be long-standing, then they evaluate you maybe once every 5 to 7 years. Especially if you have a degenerative, or you have pretty much something like that's, pretty much you're not going to be able to recover from a missing limb, things along that line, broken this, fractured that, that is permanently put you out of the work arena, especially according to what you used to do, then you can receive, some type of SSI that can spill over to SSDI. Now, in the light of that, they can also reverse, and say, hey, you are no longer on SSI, or excuse me, SSDI, simply because your condition has changed for the better. And there's situations where you can work and be on SSI. So it all depends on what you make. You have to report what you make. Of course, you're going to find out anyway. But let's just say you start working at Mickey D's or someplace just to make a couple bucks, because SSI really doesn't pay a lot. And they know that people are going to go to work and do something, because it's that kind of situation. It may cover a few things, but you're still going to need that extra $200-300 a month in order just to get by. This is not, you're banking. No, this is, I got to eat, and stuff like that. So you may have a couple bills covered, but you're still going to need a lot of essentials. So what they do when you're on SSDI is they say you can go ahead and work, and you can make up to a certain amount of money. Now, here's the thing. Everybody's situation is different, because some people can get, okay, let's say whatever happens to you, then you go file for SSI. When you go file for SSI, a lawyer, especially if you go through a lawyer, is going to tell you it's going to take 3 tries. Those 3 tries usually take a year and a half. So but then you go in front of the judge, and and yada yada yada. The judge says, okay, boom, you have it. Now that's usually all that usually spawns from an event, and then a medical professional, whether it's nurse practitioner and or doctor, MD, says that, or psychiatrist, PhD, says this person has this. And PhD, when it comes to you might have some type of mental condition that you hear loud bangs, and it triggers you, literally triggers you to duck and cover. You might be shell-shocked. You might have witnessed a horrible event while you were in the military. And so you might have PTSD, which is a real thing. Like, that is a real thing. I know some people don't think it is, But when you're shell shocked, when you suffer from PTSD, everything changes. People have to talk you down from the rafters sometimes because you think you're still in wartime. Now, for people who've never even, been in the military, it's far-fetched for them to understand that. But once you sign on that dotted line and that recruiter sends you off to your basic training is it's preparation for war. They cut your hair off and they put a weapon in your hand. This is not patty cake time. You're not going to college. This is, you're running, you're exercising, and you're training to take somebody off this planet. That's really it. And that's all. It's so the military can function as a unit, and that's when you go ahead and get your AIT, which means, you basically your special training, whether you're going to be fix helicopters, drive helicopters, be a cook, things along that line. That is your AIT. And that might send you to, a whole nother fort. Mine was on the same fort. So 6 months basic training, 6 months AIT. Then they shipped me off to, across the water, 5.5 hours to Germany. So welcome to Germany, sprechen Sie Deutsch? Nein. Ich sprechen, nein Deutsch. Kleine Deutsch. Which means I speak a little Deutsch. But they hand you this book and, you start reading it. This is your basics, Deutschland, verbiage. But the thing is, everybody over there speaks English. It's their second language, and they're taught it in grade school. So you're going, entschuldigen Sie bitte, and they're going down the street and make a left, and you're like, I spent months just learning, excuse me, please, where is the train station? So, nonetheless, getting back to disability, I know it's an important topic because nobody's here in my life, but it is important for us veterans to know that they can acquire these benefits. And it is also important that to the people who are may know veterans, even if you don't know any, get this through your head. This is not a get rich. There are people who've tried to scam the military. They're doing Fed time for that. They make up false stories or take somebody else's story that happened in the field and tell these lies. You do Fed time for that. They find out that it wasn't you and you're getting all these benefits. They go ahead and take that benefit from you, then you owe all that back pay, and it trickles down to your wife, and it's just not a good thing to do. So that's why whenever you're dealing with anything federal, they tell the truth, because they're going to dig into your background extensively, find out is everything you're saying on the up and up. They're going to look at your personal record, your health record is where they're aiming. So they're going to grab your DD-214, which is your documentation that shows when you were in the military, how long you were in the military, the date you were in, the date you left. It's going to show where you entered the military, like what city, where you were at. It's going to show where you did your basic training, your AIT, and it's going to show where you did your tours. So when you tell somebody I did 2 tours in Iraq and I have 2 ribbons to show it, we already know that you're full of baloney because you only get 1 ribbon for each. It doesn't matter if you're there 100 times, you get 1 ribbon. All right. That's it. Oh, okay. Now I only went to Germany, so I had a boom for Germany. That's it, and that's all. They also can tell why you left the military. So in some cases, you might have got kicked out. So here's where the benefits here's where the rubber meets the road. Okay, so say you went into the military and you went to the Army, and you were in there, you did 6 months basic training, 6 months AIT, and you did 3 months in your regular JOB, you caught an Article 15, and they ETS'd you. They kicked you out. You know, it's just like, boom. So altogether, you have 15 months in the military. You turn around and say, okay, I had 15 months, you know, I got kicked out. Let me go and see if I can get any benefits, because I did get hurt, but I got hurt, but this wasn't the reason that they kicked me out. I didn't get out I didn't have a medical leave. I got out because let me pick something soldiers do a lot, drinking. I drank all the time. And so I had too many DUIs, and my Article 15 just piled up, and they just say, boom, another one, you're gone. I did it anyway. I was drunk all the time. Boom, you're out of the military. You are no longer fit for the military. You're no longer a soldier. You're not becoming or acting like a soldier. You're not using your military training. You're not using your common sense. There are a lot of people who go through that, because the military is a lot of pressure. You have people you don't even know can tell you to drop and give you 20, and if you don't do it, you get an Article 15 for insubordination. And you would think that there are people who don't take advantage of their rank. You are absolutely wrong. You are. You say something to the wrong person, and they will write you up. I had it happen to me. I'm like, man, I thought we was cool. No, they're a sergeant. I'm an E4. You know, there is no cool. That is what it is. But Sergeant Banoff. But I wasn't really mad at him for that. He just put me in my place. I always thought Sergeant Banoff was cool. He was strange, but he was entertaining. So there's that. I got my stuff together. I was like, boom, you got me. I stepped out of line. It will not happen again. Now, I was no longer cordial with him. You know what I mean? Whenever I saw him and he spoke to me, I knew exactly what it was. I did not let him get a chance to do that to me again. So anyway, neither here. If I would have kept going down that road, in which they consider insubordinate, even though to me it was just, I work with you every day, yada, 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 you know. Then, you know, you get written up, you go before your E7, who's basically controls what you're doing in your MOS, which is your job. Then if they can't really get you to get on the right track, you're going to go before your captain, who is pretty much captain over your unit. And first, actually, you're going to go before your E8, which is he has a diamond in the middle, and or he might have an empty diamond. So you go before your E8. Your E8 and the captain work together, pretty much. The E8 will just pretty much try to square you away and be like, you know, get out of here. You know, I don't want to see you do this again. But if you're a knucklehead and you have to keep appearing from him, then you're going to go before the captain. You go before the captain is going to hand down punitive damages because you should not be there. That's just that, you know. In some cases, it's just a surprise, like, wow, how did this happen? I'm going to tell you a story about that because nobody's listening. Basically, when I was in Germany, of course, 19 years old, when I was in Germany, there are people who ETS out of Germany all the time. And, you know, and other places. And what you do when you get over there is you buy a vehicle because you don't want to ship your vehicle back and forth. So there was a family that was leaving. They sold me their vehicle. They sold me an Audi for $600. I did not have a German driver's license, but I had an American driver's license. So I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and drive because I got me a car, you know. And I sound just like that. No, I didn't. So I had a car, and I got stopped by the Lufthansa. No, that's the Lufthansa is the train station, I think. No, that's the Bahnhof. That's the train station. But anyways, I think I got stopped by the police or something. Or one of the guards They were like, "Where's your license at?" I was like, "I don't have one." It was one of the American guards, and they would just like pull over. I was like, "Okay." I'm just like, why would I be able to register one if it wasn't a big deal? I went in front of the captain for that, because they were trying to figure out why that, like how that happened. They thought there was some kind of flaw in the system, which there was, and they wanted to, get that out of the way because you could have a lot of soldiers naive and desperate to get around in the new world that they're in, run into this problem because people were coming and going all the time. So they knew it wasn't me trying to commit some criminal act. But I did receive an Article 15. It was pretty much a slap on the wrist. They kind of took my car and said, "Get a license." You know what I mean? But nonetheless, I went ahead and traveled on foot from there, train or wherever. I didn't go too many places, and I had a couple friends that had vehicles. So that's an incident where you might go before the captain, but usually you don't want to go before the captain because he's going to hand down some punitive damages. If he can't handle you, then you're going to go before a silver leaf, who's going to be a lieutenant colonel, I believe. Then you're going to go before a gold leaf. If I get this mixed up, you guys, I haven't been in the military in 30 years. And then you might go before a silver leaf, and a silver leaf just says, "We're not even going to let you climb up the chain," not unless it's something very, very heinous. That's a heinous crime. Then you're going to climb right up the chain. And there was a young lady that did commit a serious crime when she was in Germany, and she took someone's life. She took a German's life, and she worked with the AG, which is the Adjutant General. So there was a big issue on whether she should be tried as an American in Germany or tried as an American German as an American in America. So you're still American, but you're on German soil, and you off to German pretty much. And I knew the guy who she did in, and he was actually, I think he was from another country, but he was a German citizen. And so that whole thing happened. So, that went straight up the chain of command. They stripped her rank, and it was a very, very sad situation. Nonetheless, for almost normal situations, I worked for the jail, so I know a lot of what people went in there for. They were in there for bad checks. So let's just say you go in, you're not there very long. You're there for less than 18 months is what I'm trying to say. You start writing bad checks and you get out 17 months. Well, guess what? You do not reach the time criteria to receive your benefits, any benefits from the military. Now, other than, let's say you got hurt, you had an operation, something that's on your medical record where it hindered you from working, like I did. I incurred 2 hernias from lifting them heavy pots of potatoes and water, very heavy. So that automatically dinged me from going out into the field, because that's exactly what we were doing. We were going out to the field. They put me on medical immediately. I could work in the kitchen, but I couldn't lift up heavy stuff. You know how irritating that is? "Hey, could you lift this for me?" And I'm strong. Sometimes I would just lift it, but nonetheless, I still had my situation that sometimes I was just like, I can't do it. So they had me doing certain things. I could still work, but I couldn't lift certain things. They put me on military medical. I didn't go on leave because I was still working. So that's how they do. They don't just say, "Okay, you leave." Not unless it's something that you can no longer perform any kind of job. Once again, an appendage or something like that. So they put me on medical disability pretty much I was not able to go out in the field because you have to build GP mediums, GP larges. You have to do a lot of lifting. I was unable to do it, but I did help pack the deuce and a half. And they were like, we're going to miss you in the field. I was like, yeah, because, I've been doing this for a minute. I can, I know how to get that deuce and a half up and going, but nonetheless. So once that happened, that automatically put me in a disability rating. So once I got out of the military, which I didn't even know for like almost 9 or 10 years, that I could go and receive monies because of my disability. I found out in 1998. I got out in 1991. They were just like, oh yeah, well, you can receive. So then I started getting a couple dollars from the military, and because of that happened to me. Now, this is what I'm not sure of. I'm not sure if you get hurt in the military because of the military, but you don't do 18 months, can you still get your, percentage in disability? I'm not really sure about that. I would say talk to a veterans rep. I'm not sure how it goes when it comes to SSI. Well, I would, being that I'm on SSI, that didn't come from the military. That come from just civilian life. I got in a car accident, boom, SSI. And then they found out what, I have a degenerative issue from the accident, and I'm never going to be the same. I'm just not. So they're like, okay, boom, Ssdi. Now, if you have something happen to you in the military, and then, like, I'm not sure how that goes, but I believe if they sent you home, then you can go ahead and apply for SSI and probably then get on an Ssdi. I'm pretty sure if they had to send you home for that. But like I said, that's different. So there are a lot of people who are getting kicked out of the military for reasons that are their fault. If they do not reach that 180-day threshold, they can't get any. So I know somebody this happened to, he was like, yeah, I was in the Navy. And I was like, dude, go in and see if we can get your benefits. I'm like, how long were you in? He's like, it was like, maybe 100 days. I was like, oh, he's not going to help you. And he couldn't receive anything. He had a DD-214 and everything. Could not receive not one benefit. When I say not one benefit, I mean he can't go to a military hospital and get health care from a military hospital. This individual can't get any, if he, he can't get buried, what I'm saying, and because he's a soldier, he can't do that whole, he can't really do any of those things because he didn't reach that threshold, so he can't get any kind of benefits whatsoever. So like I said, I'm saying this for the young people too who are thinking about going in. Military is no joke. And if you go in and you're still a knucklehead and you don't want to tighten it up, you want to yell back at the DI and you want to act a fool, you're going to get ran through. They're going to wear you out. And then if you're lucky, they might throw you in prison, and they're good for that. They will throw you in prison. There are military jails, there are military police. Military police will get with you right now. They're just as strong, and these are not a bunch of donut eating. These are guys that they will come to your room and be like, pack it up, buddy. You're going to the big house, and you'll be in there for a while. And I know because I worked for the jail. I was a cook. So don't waste your time. If you just, especially with you millennials who don't want to work and all this other stuff, and you just don't feel like the military is not for you. There's not a millennial military. There just isn't. There's the military. And you will find yourself on a front-leaning rest while everybody's in the mess hall eating. And I've seen it happen. And a front-leaning rest is a push-up position. I seen a guy do push-ups while we were in there eating. And the drill sergeants are looking at them laughing. And we're not laughing because we know better. But that person's out there, and after we got done eating, they came up, lined us up, and we all marched off. That person did not get to eat. So don't be silly if you're going to go into the military. Don't be this hard-headed, I'm from, wherever you're from, and think you're going to go in the military and run things, because you're not. It's just not the way it is. Like I said, you millennials have a whole different way of thinking than old-fashioned people like myself. I was disciplined at home, so their discipline was nothing to me until they tried to physically do something to me, and then I was just like, nah, it's not going to happen. So that's where I ran into some issues. I had some people really try to put their hands on me, and I was like, E6, you're going to have a bad day. You're what, almost 50? I run the 2 mile in like 10 minutes or something. Bench press 300. You're about to have a bad day. And I warned him. He got all huffy, and I was like, you put your hands on me, you're going to have a bad day. So I didn't care what was going to happen, but I was going to beat the life out of that dude. But I'm glad I didn't, because he pretty much got the memo that he wasn't going to survive the incursion. He's going to need some backup, and there was no backup for him. So, he piped down. I've had a couple E6s get in my face, and but they always threw their rank behind, how tough they were. And I was just like, all right, you're only tough because, E6 or whatever. So anyhow, so yes, it is possible for you to receive your SSI, or excuse me, your SSI, then your SSDI, and your military benefits. The last thing I want to talk about is pension. Pension is, okay, so let's say that you have a, all right, in my case, car accident, right? So I filed for pension. When I filed for pension, they were like, you're already getting SSDI. So what they did was they looked at my SSDI and they matched my pension. They said, well, actually, if you got pension, you would get like $2 or $3 less. So we're going to keep you on your SSDI. And when you're on SSDI, you can actually work and make some money. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just not enough. Pension, you work, they take it right out of your pension. Another thing, SSDI can change. So your SSDI doesn't necessarily mean it's permanent, because for every 5 to 7 years, they can evaluate you. And it's not always 5 to 7 years. It depends on what it is for you. But so when they evaluate you, they can say, oh, you're better now. You're all good. And boom, SSDI gone. Pension, not so much. Pension is pretty much there. It's life. But it is not a lot of money. And if you make $1, they're going to subtract it right out of your pension, Budinsky. And that's just that. So some people may have a good pension. My pension is not a lot of money at all. But nonetheless, if I lose my SSDI, which I don't, because my situation, like I said, is degenerative, it's not going to go anywhere, and it's getting worse, then I would, go ahead and say, okay, I want to file for pension, and then get my pension. So you have a lot of military personnel who are on pension, and you see a lot of them are broke as hell. Broke. You got some are homeless, because it's easier to live in your car than it is trying to pay the rent, the light, the water, the car insurance, the telephone, all those things you still paying for coming out of your pension. That goes quick. Your rent, $500-$600. Your car insurance, that's another $100. Your light and gas, that's another $120, and there it is. This is not eating. This is not putting gas in your car. This is not homeowners insurance or renters insurance. You know what I'm saying? This is not going to get a hamburger or, heck, buying a newspaper. This is just your basic stuff that you can't keep up with. So you might have somebody who might have pension for more than one thing. So they might been on a job for 30 years and get pension from that and then get a military pension. And I'm not sure if they can actually do that, but I think some people can. Well, here's what they'll do. They'll say, this is paying you more. So you got people who got, side hustles or whatever that, what it is. But just wanted to tell you the difference between the three. And because I'm going through that now, and some of you youngins might come across this video and you're thinking about going into the military. And, you might listen to an old guy, OG, who did it 30 years ago. So before a lot of you were even born and or thought of, I was in the military running around in the cold and mud and freezing my head off trying to, protect this country the best I could. And, so there it is. Anyways. SSI, SSDI, Veterans Benefits, and pension. Another thing, one last thing, your veterans benefits doesn't necessarily go just up to 100%. I have a friend who's getting like 160. So he's doing okay, but he's not okay. You know what I'm saying? He's not okay. He went over the water into a war, Desert Storm, and I tried to go with him, and I couldn't. That was the last I saw him, but I heard, from him when he came back 20 years later. And, he was actually in war, shooting at people who've done absolutely nothing to him, but they were shooting back at him. And he's messed up from it. He's seen some messed up things. His body is not the best, but he's still hanging in there, and he's in pain every day, just like me. And because of that, the military, pays him well. Now, when I say well, I don't mean the guy's rich. I mean, he's on serious meds. He's got some mental issues, but he's still a cool guy. He's not going off on anybody, but, he's still shaking. He's shaking up, because we were kids. 19 years old, you're just a kid. You're an adult, but you're just like, happy-go-lucky. Oh, no. Not when you got, bullets whizzing by you from some people who live in their own country, and you step foot in their country trying to take what belongs to them. So just want to let you guys know that. So it does go over 100, depends on what it's for. Yeah. And for you guys who've been in the military before, if you've seen action, go talk to your VA rep. Go talk to them about your benefits, and go talk to your VA rep about school. Talk to them about your GI Bill. Talk to them about, I think that's chapter 31 and what is 31 and 33. I was in the VOC rehab program, so go talk to them about that. And if you can't get in one, you might be able to get in another. Go and get your education. They paid for my education. So I have a college degree in health service administration. I just finished it a couple of months ago. Took me a long time, but I have it. So it can definitely change your outlook on life, having a college degree, especially if it's something that people are definitely hiring in. I am in the health field. And, you know, my earning potential has gone from, you know, maybe $1,000 or, you know, 1,600 bucks a month to the earning potential of a health administrator goes up to 200,000 for those who's been doing it for 10 years, 10, 20. But with just my bachelor's degree, I've seen jobs the last job that I looked at, I thought about applying for was 80,000 to 100,000. And that's in the private industry. And when I was looking in the government sector, I found a job that I actually did apply for. And, but I don't think I'll get, because I don't have the experience. So I know I'm not going to get it. But nonetheless, I applied anyway because I have a college degree. If I didn't have a college degree, I wouldn't have applied for it. But nonetheless, so I applied for this job, and it starts off in somewhere like 80, and it goes up to 129 for a health service administrator. So you military people who have not gone and gotten your degree, and you have people out there who are saying, hey, man, you're too old. I am 51. I'll be 52 in a couple of days. Okay, I just got my degree in September of this year. Don't listen to them knuckleheads. Don't listen to them. Okay, I'm in my 50s. I'm just getting my bachelor's degree. Do not listen to those people. Go and get your degree. If the military is paying for it, do not turn away that money, because not only can it change your situation, you know, but it also changes your mind. You know what I'm saying? Your earning potential changes based on the lures of your college degree. Now, some of you don't need a college degree. This is not who I'm talking to. I'm talking to people who still have a bucket list and an inkling, fervor to do more. You're like, I want to go ahead and get an architect or whatever. And, you know, you need a bachelor's degree in that. And then, of course, you know, go further. Use the military money that you earned from your GI Bill and or your VOC rehabilitation. Okay? Use one of the two programs. And by the way, you can't use both. So if your GI Bill, if you didn't use your GI Bill, you can go ahead and use your VOC rehab. And they pay you while you're going to school. They're two different programs. They have two different paying systems. Okay, so there's that. But nonetheless, some people get out of the military and their GI Bills taken from them. That happened to me. So when I heard about the VOC rehab program, I applied for it, but I was only 10%. You had to be 20%. So I kept applying for like 5 years, and then finally they called me and said, hey, come on down to the university. We want to talk to you about your VOC rehab. And took them 15 minutes, evaluated me and says, where do you want to go to school? And I said, this is what I wanted to do. They said, you need to go talk to a VA counselor. I went and spoke to a VA counselor. They said, first thing you have to do is research your degree. Because if you pick a degree that is not inclining, if the jobs are declining, then the military will not pay for it. So if you wanted to do underwater basket weaving and that job is either non-existent or on a decline, I'll take a real degree, art. Art is on a decline. Okay, there are still people getting art degrees, but nonetheless, the job market, especially depending on your geographical area. So if you live in New York and you wanted to get an art degree, or you lived in California and wanted to get an art degree, it's a whole different thing because you could major in film. You're in California, you're in New York, you know it's popping. But if you're in, North Carolina and you want to major in film, might not be as popping. You know what I'm saying? So I started off with art. They were just like, no. I was trying to get into some type of art therapy. They was like, eh. And so I ended up in health service administration, which is a desk jockey, which is far from where I ever thought I'd be. But they also won't pay for a degree if it hinders your disability. This is true. They will not pay for a degree if it hinders your disability. So it's all to try to get you back on your feet. That's what they're paying for. But so health service administration, which is, I got cornered into that because of the school that I chose that would take me back in, which was Franklin University. And they were just like, okay, pick a degree. And I was just like, And when I looked at the health field, I was like, just about everything in health is jumping. And it's worldwide. It's a pandemic degree, if I can say that, because everywhere you go, there's some type of health organization that needs organized. So they need managers. It just is what it is. A doctor's office has a manager. A hospital has a manager. World Health Organizations have managers, And I can even go and do a Doctors Without Border type of thing, which I'm really thinking about doing. And go to some part of, some foreign land and just pretty much study the, ways and means of their organization and pretty much what's going on, because you don't have to be a doctor to do the Doctors Without Borders. They have nurses, they have assistants, they have, LPNs, RNs, they have people who handle the paperwork, doing the HICFAs and all that type of thing. There's a need out there for organizers, and that's what I would be doing. I'm not taking blood and phlebotomists and all that, but I would be the one to make sure that things run smoothly like a health organization should. And you have your basic principles, just like any office. Your basic principles, your finance principle, your human resource. For the comings and goings of employees or potential employees, and you have to make sure the people are getting paid and the lights are staying on and things along that line, and food contracts and all those type of and analytics, where you have to analyze data, which is a big part of my job, where you have to analyze incoming and outgoing data. That can sound pretty boring. However, when it gets to the research, you are involved in research too when you have a health service administration degree, because you have to look at the data and pretty much say, try to systematically predict how this data is going to help or hinder you. So, case in point, there is a opioid epidemic, especially amongst European women. So, there's and what that has done is it's caused a whole knee-jerk reaction, even in politics. So now, I've had people come knock on my door and say, hey, vote for issue 1. I was like, what is issue 1? They were like, it's giving people less sentences for drug use. And just like, we doing that now? Because when Clinton was in office, we were giving people 3 strikes, you're out. for drug use. But now they're trying to push it where, no, we're trying to get, why? Because white women are mostly affected by opioids. And this is in the baby bearing age. So this is not white women 50 and over. That's not what the major crux of that demographic is. It's white women like 20 up to like 35. They're getting hit the hardest by this. So, legislation's going to change in order to try to compensate and not see those people. And so where that leaves me, a health organizer, is saying, I know that this doctor's office, or this, say I was in a medical facility, a public medical facility, I know that I'm going to start seeing an influx of Caucasian women come through that door. And I know what the problem's going to be. Now, I have to brace for impact because this is an influx. So let's just say that I had a hospital, let's just say I had an organization that had 20 beds. And I had 10 long-term. So I had 10 long-term beds and I had 10 outpatient. And I had a triage. So you get the gist here. It's not a very big organization, but I'm set in a small town in rural Ohio. So I'm not in Columbus. I'm not in Cincinnati. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I'm not in Cleveland, because if you're in Cleveland, you're going to get hit real hard. Okay? I'm not in none of those. I'm in Medina. I'm outside of Akron, which is a small but a major metropolitan flow-through city. People, you get in there and get out, but there's a lot going on in Akron, especially when it comes to drugs. Okay, so I'm sitting in Medina County, which is right outside of Akron, right there, boom. And so I'm sitting outside of Akron. I'm not Akron General. I'm not Children's Hospital, by the way. That's where I was born. I'm not Children's Hospital. They're taking the crux. They're taking the bulk of the people being affected by this. I'm taking the people who live in the small rural areas. And I know for a demographic fact that the majority of those people that live in my area are Caucasian. I know that they're going to come see me. I know that they've been hit by the opioid program. And because I know this, I have to prepare not only my staff for the actual issue, which is opioids. I have to make sure I have the medical equipment and people who are well trained in this issue. So this is not an AIDS epidemic. You know what I'm saying? This is not a bunch of people coming in with AIDS. It's, something like that. This is not the flu. This is not, you know what I'm saying? This is not shingles for old people. This is opioids. This is not something people catch. This is something people are addicted to. So I need to have, one, psychiatrists on hand, two, whatever medication that they take to counteract, what it is, because people are dying from this. So, and I have to look at the levels of addictions. So this is why you have your outpatient, and this is how you have your long-term. A lot of your long-term is for illnesses, cancer, long-term, you know what I'm saying? Some cancers are not long-term. Some people come in and get a, vasectomy and all kind of other stuff, and then boom, they're taken care of, they're gone. But opioids, where's that in the script? We haven't seen this. We've seen drug addictions, but opioids in mass numbers, we haven't seen this. So that's what I'm saying. An organizer has to brace for impact. And you have to have the right staff. You have to have, thanks for stopping by, Demetrius. You have to have the right staff. You have to have the right information. You have to be in constant communique with other organizations. And things along that line. There's just a bunch of it. But get a degree. Get it. Because your value, your personal value is going to go up. You're personally going to feel more valuable. Even if it's a certificate, you know, you're going to feel more valuable. And that energy is going to help you, one, live longer and live better. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and go. And thanks all of you who stopped by, hung out for a couple seconds. And if you guys got any questions, go ahead and ask your boy. I'll be here all night. God bless.